So, what if you're not a relatively new player? I say that a lot. Well, I've been playing with the Zymos for the past week, and this thing can be made to deal billions of damage. What you're seeing right now isn't even its final form. It's effective on single targets and shreds past groups of almost anything without much trouble. So if you want to engage in some nonsense like this from time to time, well, this is the video with all the details you'll need. It is going to be a longer video than usual though, so timestamps are in the description if you need them. Also, I spent way too much time on this video, keep making this mistake over and over again, my life's going to crap. But special thanks to Winston Churchill from the Discord for making this video possible. Right, so before we get into the builds and testing and stuff, just to make sure everyone's up to speed and won't get confused or anything down the line, hopefully, let's refresh on critical hits and headshots. Critical hits in Warframe boost damage based on a tier system that follows the critical chance percentage of your weapon. The greater your percentage, the higher your crit tier, the stronger your damage multiplier. On default in-game settings, tier 1 crits show up as yellow numbers on screen, tier 2 is orange, with tier 3 and beyond being red. While the color remains the same from tier 3 and up, there is an addition of a somewhat pointless exclamation mark for each tier from 4 to 6, so you kinda cap out at 3 for those. I guess the devs didn't think anyone would be going past 6 or 700% crit chance. Well, the Zymos here goes into the thousands, which we'll sure enough take a look at in just a bit. By the way, a bit of side info, crits on shields will always be blue regardless of tier, and stealth kills, I believe, will always show up as yellow numbers. So how about headshots? Well, in a lot of shooters, headshots are rewarded with additional damage multipliers, and Warframe is the same. The head on most enemies is a part or location that usually awards a 3x multiplier when hit or struck. Simple enough. However, if the shot or strike that hit the head was a critical, then you get something called a critical headshot, and with that an additional 2x multiplier is applied on top. This is the formula for calculating the multiplier from a critical headshot. I really do hope all that explanation was sufficient, not too confusing, which if it was, feel free to ask questions in the comments or reach out on Discord. Though I will say I usually only reply to friends and premium members. Patreon sub from just $1, by the way. Also, I kinda need to tell you guys something. Yeah, ads on videos suck, especially on YouTube, but how about a helpful recommendation? I mean, we all love using Steam. The homepage and pop-ups there are all basically ads, so what if I told you there's a way to get games just as easy for any platform, Steam included, but also get rewarded for doing so with free games and store credit, among other things? Well, Green Man Gaming is a great place to get games for great prices. All the keys are sourced directly from the publishers, meaning no middlemen or shady stuff in the background. There's also an XP-based loyalty program, regional pricing with better discounts than even on Steam sometimes. I mean, my friends all bought Helldivers 2 on Green Man Gaming, where it was going for a decent discount, at least for the US region. Also, some of the money spent does go towards ecosystem restoration initiatives, which you can check out in the description. It's pretty cool to see. So, the next time you're thinking about buying games, especially with titles like Ghosts of Tsushima, Dragon's Dogma 2, and Horizon Forbidden West coming out soon, probably worth checking Green Man Gaming just in case. I mean, you can support yourself by saving money, the devs, the environment, and losers like me. Haha. Yeah. Currently, there is a spring sale event going on with titles like Alan Wake 2, the Tomb Raider, and Deus Ex franchises all up for a nice discount. So check out the links in the description and get gaming today. Right, time to talk about the Zymos. If you don't know much about this thing, the parts and blueprint are available from Daddy and Trotty on Deimos, so I would say not too difficult for newer players to acquire. It has a base crit multiplier of 2.3x paired with a very low crit chance of 5%, which won't be a problem as we'll see soon enough. The unique feature of the Zymos that we're going to absolutely exploit in this video is the spores. When you fire the Zymos, if the initial shot, which is also a spore, lands on an enemy head, aka headshot, it will explode after a period of time to spawn another 6 spores that seek the heads of other enemy targets, or will just all land back onto the same enemy if there are none nearby. The spores all have a range of 20 meters and won't spawn if the target you shot cannot be stunned, like Zymos units with an active overguard, for example. There's also a unique sound effect that lets you know if you dealt a headshot, and the noises resulting from a group of enemies getting absolutely spore banged is oddly satisfying. Take a listen and let me know what you think. Now, the Zymos does have a quirk in that the critical chance and critical multipliers are applied squared. Let me try and explain what I mean here. Generally with weapons, critical chance and critical damage are determined with a simple formula that calculates based off of the weapon's base critical stats. So for example, if you equipped Point Strike on Rubico Prime, your modded crit chance is now 95%, up from the base of 38. But with the Zymos, crit chance and crit damage are calculated like this. I've put some examples in here which may be hard to follow in the period of a few seconds, so please feel free to pause or take a screenshot. So why does the Zymos behave like this? Absolutely no idea, mate. We could just chalk it up to spaghetti code, I guess. Apparently this Zymos behavior was secretly removed from the game and then added back in sometime last year. Maybe DE tried to fix the thing, and it made half the known universe in Warframe disappear. So they've just decided to let it exist for now and do its thing. Anyways, here's the Zymos build we're gonna go with for this video, equipped of course with the ribbon provided by Mr. Winston. The last two variables here could have been better, but it's alright, all things considered, because we ain't short on damage output, that's for sure. The build does utilize the galvanized set of mods for boosting base damage, crit chance, and multi-shot, with secondary outburst for even more crit chance and crit damage, but keep in mind this thing does require a fast combo building melee to make the most out of. Now here's the frame that we're gonna pair with the Zymos. Harrow really is crucial for making this entire setup work, at least work well enough for general use of missions. It was a bit of a struggle to balance between showcasing the gun versus showcasing Harrow here, as he really does fix the Zymos' issues, as well as boost it to new levels of insanity. I wish I could have done that with girls in the past. The fix part, I mean, not Archon Intensify here does work with Penance to give you the additional bonus of 30% strength, which will certainly help with recovering shields when using Condemn. I do also recommend a Primed Sure-Footed to negate the stagger from Zymos' spore explosions and just general Eximus annoyances. You can probably get away with just regular flow here, as the copious amounts of energy regen from Thorable really does eliminate any sort of possible energy problems. Adaptation could also be a consideration, though if you just remember to press 1 enough times, you can regen shields like crazy, provided sufficient enemy numbers and ability strength, which around 160 to 180% should be good enough. I've also got Arcane Aegis here. Not sure if it's worth the slot, but I really do like the fact that it helps regen shields even when taking damage or when using penance. It improves survivability in my opinion. As for Arcane Avenger, well, this is an additional flat buff to crits on the Zymos, which you can honestly forego for anything else if you like. Lastly, I've equipped a single Tau Forged Amber Shard for the casting speed, just so I could free up a mod slot, which would have been used up by something like Natural Talent. You could also do it the other way around and have Natural Talent equipped with a full set of Archon Shards to tweak Harrow's stats to your liking. I personally haven't gotten too far with shards and builds for videos yet. I feel like it can get a little convoluted. Maybe with the next update, shards will become a lot easier to obtain, so once a lot more players have a ton of it, I'll consider including more discussion surrounding them in future videos. As for the melee weapon, we're using the Glaive Prime with a build that's focused on combo count and duration with a Tennokai mod just because it's a new thing. Not really super necessary. Finally, an Adarza Kavat equipped with the Cat's Eye mod because crits, my man. And also this neat new mod I discovered called Reinforced Bond that should help with making the Zymos a lot faster in terms of fire rate. After all that tedious amount of effort and explanation, here's a bit of testing to show what this setup is capable of. I mean, look at this is just kind of ridiculous. We're gonna do a short test with like 3 Exo officers. I'm not gonna spawn them right now, just gonna show you the gear over here, the Harrow with the build. Our Avenger's not really gonna get used here, but whatever. The Zymos with the Zymos build and secondary outburst, comboed with Glaive Prime, which doesn't really have a complete build here. Really, this is just for Corrupt Charge to trigger secondary outburst for like about 40% crit chance boost to the Zymos, which doesn't sound like a lot. It isn't a lot, but you know, once you start squaring things, and apart from the frame and the gun, we've got the cat. Now, what does the cat have? The cat's eye mod. For that 60% increased critical chance, which may trigger while I'm trying to fight these 3 exo officers, may not. Spawn them and then approach. Use Harrow's 1 to lock them in place. Look at that. They didn't quite die, but those crits were just crazy. That one did. Holy crap. Let's try that again. And with a few more shots, it is just absolute destruction. I've found void survival or high-level survival missions in general to be where the Zymos shines best, as there are often lots of enemies grouped together, making it easier for the spores to propagate from a headshot, as you can see here. In the newer missions like Alchemy and Survival in the Entrati Labs on Steel Path mode, the Zymos is maybe less potent, as some enemies don't even have heads you could target. With that said, there's still plenty of Necromech Hounds or Argo-Canids that the Zymos will work against. Also, pro tip, while the Rogue Culverins do have heads, quote-unquote heads, in the form of canisters on their shoulders, since they're super fragile and explode on the first shot, the Zymos spores won't have a chance to spawn. Oh, and shooting the lumbering fragments or leggy boys in between the legs does count as a head shot and does trigger the spores. But overall, with enemies like the Severed Wardens that buff everything with Overguard, making it difficult to target heads during very chaotic scenarios because they're all now immune to Condemned, and the Hollow Vein being resistant to crowd control abilities akin to Sentience, playing around the Entrati Labs is more of a showcase for Harrow's capabilities here than the Zymos, I feel. Which brings me to the shortcomings of the Zymos. Like I just mentioned, if you come up against an enemy with no heads, well, sucks to suck. If it's a lower level fodder mob, the Zymos could probably still do enough damage to kill it, but otherwise it becomes very ineffective, especially against enemies with Overguard. You are going to want to pair this thing with an Overguard deleting primary or melee. Plus, this entire setup with the frame and mods and arcanes and all the formas, it's really expensive, and I don't expect a lot of players to realistically want to put this level of effort when they could have been spending that time diving into hell with their friends. Then again, the rewards are immense. The Zymos almost comes off as feeling like a lost signature weapon of Harrow's, because it really does pair so well with his kit. Otherwise, the Zymos on its own, even with sufficient boost to the crits, is a slow, cumbersome, and generally unfun weapon to use. Let me know what you think about it down in the comments. Hopefully you guys found some value out of this video because it really did take a lot of time and effort. I'd super appreciate it if you left a comment and maybe check out the Discord, Patreon, and game deals. Links to everything are in the description. Or feel free to click on one of the other videos here to watch more.